Chapter 27. Don't judge too harshly. The next morning, Anastasia and I decided to go over to her grandfather's glade. I'd long been asking her to show me this spot, his glade, and besides that, I wanted to have a chat with him. According to what Anastasia has said, it would take no less than 3 hours to walk to her grandfather's glade. Consequently, such a hike might take up the entire day, but it's stretched out into 2 days. Even as we made our way through the taiga to her grandfather's glade, Anastasia and I spoke about homesteads. You know, Anastasia, many people who build family homesteads, or kin's domains, feel they shouldn't run electricity to their homestead or use all kinds of technology. Others do use it. What do you think, Vladimir? I think that at the beginning stage, you can't really get along without technology, even without professional builders. You might possibly be right, Vladimir. Let the technical means that have accumulated over the centuries be used for good. A unity of opposites will result, but I think we must design life so that in the future we will gradually do without them. For some time, I walked silently behind Anastasia. I was stepping over the fallen trunks of old trees, skirting thickets of bushes along the invisible path and thinking my own thoughts. And maybe for that reason, I fell a bit behind. I even lost sight of her. But then, after I'd taken a few steps, I heard Anastasia's voice. You must be tired, Vladimir. We can take a rest. Let's take a seat. I agreed. Let's. This is not the easiest path. We've been walking for only an hour, but it feels like we've gone 10 kilometers. We sat down on a tree trunk. Anastasia held out a handful of currants to me that she had collected along the way. I silently ate the delicious berries from the Siberian taiga and continued to think about my unpleasant situation. Then I decided to tell Anastasia about it. Anastasia, it so happens that for a number of years now, I've been thinking about a situation that I find very unpleasant. In one of the books, I told about the inception of Christianity in Rus, and included historical facts and information from museums, and I ended up with negative information. The whole inception looked like a takeover of Russia, and it seemed as though I'd laid out all the accurate facts and conclusions, but now I have an unpleasant feeling in my heart. And for years now, I've been tormented by doubts. Why unpleasant, Vladimir? Is it because certain representatives of the church have been responding badly to you? That's not it. I'm already used to that. It's something else that I just can't quite figure out. What is it, Vladimir? When I wrote about the baptism of Rus in such negative terms, then it ended up that I was saying something negative, not about some specific person, but about everyone, all at once. Only afterward did I get that in no way should I have done that. And how did you come to that understanding, Vladimir? I spent the best years of my life, the best years of my childhood, at my grandparents' place. Oh my God. I spent the best years of my childhood at my grandparents' place in the village of Kuznichi. I remember lots of details from living there. I remember that there, in the little Ukrainian hut, on a table in the corner, were Orthodox icons. My grandmother would decorate them with an embroidered towel and light a little lamp. I also remember the way my mom would attend church, even with her ailing legs. I often recall my spiritual father, Father Feodorit, the archpriest of the Trinity St. Sergius Lavra Monastery. To this day, I still keep the Bible that he gave me. So it turns out that by speaking out negatively about Christianity, I was speaking out negatively about my grandparents, my mother, my spiritual father Feodorit, well, maybe about many good and worthy people too. When I realized all this, And the first chance I got, I appeared on television, on Channel 1, and apologized to the church. But I didn't feel much better after I did that. What else do you think I need to do to expiate my guilt before the people close to me? And before myself, too, maybe. I think you need to fully comprehend everything and summon up a positive image that will eclipse the negative. Of course, it's easy to say, comprehend everything. I've been trying to do that for more than a year. I don't think I'm doing such a great job. Tell me, how do you feel about religions? Maybe you prefer some, disavow, or even reject some other false ones? Vladimir, I don't understand what meaning you assign to the word disavow, but I will try to show you the links in your family chain. Take this twig here. That will serve as your saber, S-A-B-R-E, for severing those links of the chain that you disavow. A depiction of a long chain of people holding hands arose in the space. The people of the first group wore crosses and little icons around their neck. Do you see, Vladimir? These are your relatives of the Orthodox faith, and those wearing turbans are Muslims. They also figure into your genealogy. And now here is a large group of people who today are called pagans. Next, holding hands, come your forebears from the Vedic period. Behind them come the blurred outlines of people in the first race, and we can also say of them that these are people from the first civilization on Earth. They are blurry because information regarding them has not been articulated in the space, but your relatives are present there too. The first person in this family chain was created by God, and he even now holds the hand of God. In all who follow also exists a particle of God. One day it will come to pass that the next person born of your line will come to know them all, and will sense everyone. He will also link hands with God. It may be that this will be you, or it may be one of your great-granddaughters. The circle will be formed. The circle, Alpha and Omega, and Alpha once more. Now think and tell me, which of these groups of people would you like to remove from the chain? I have to think about which one. Wait, Anastasia. Wait, if I remove even one group of people, then you know the chain will be broken. Of course, it will be broken. And if it is broken, then the person who breaks it can never come to know God, link hands with him, and form the circle. I also think that. I think that he will be unable to do this. So what does that mean? Should a person accept absolutely all religions? Which religion to accept? This is the choice of each person, but I think we should disavow nothing from the path humanity has followed. It's possible that all that occurred in the past is essential for today's awareness. What you consider to be good is essential to accept. That which appears to your mind to be negative is essential simply to know in order that it should not reoccur going forward, but not to be rejected. What about if you don't know? Will it necessarily have to reoccur, and in the very same way? Yes, it will reoccur. There will come a prophet who seems the bearer of the new. Those who have forgotten will hark unto him in delight. not knowing that in doing so, they create nothing new. But really, it's impossible to know with precision everything that has happened to mankind since the time of creation. Historians distort even the most recent historical events to curry favors with those in power. Within you, Vladimir, and within each person alive on the earth, there exists a particle containing all the information of your family line, from creation up to the present day. I understand. This information is stored in each person on the genetic level, but how can we learn to make use of it? That's the question. By not disavowing and not rejecting even a smidgen of your particle. But nobody has the least intention of rejecting their own particle. When you disavow information about the past that has come to you from outside, you at the same time reject that particle that is within you. But what about if this information is false? The particle of false information is also within you. It has been preserved so that you might gain insight into the lie. Anastasia, really? You were the one who showed me and told me about how the black monks killed the Vedic Russian family who didn't want to betray their faith and their way of life. I wrote about it in a book. The image of the Vedic Russians turned out very powerfully. That's what many people have said. I often recall it, especially the picture where the wounded Vedic Russian, the artist, is lying under the pine tree, clutching to his chest the figurine that he had carved of the woman he loved. He had loved her his whole life, but she had married another. He kept on loving her, hiding his love. Only when he would carve figurines, they would always end up looking like her. He, an old elder, entered into battle with a whole enemy detachment in order to lead them away from the family of the woman he loved. And he was wounded. And I wrote your words. The Vedic Russian lay on the grass and did not moan. A small stream of blood flowed from his chest. The wooden pine tree did not know how to cry. Well, do you remember? Yes, Vladimir, I remember this emotional scene. Well, so after this picture, then how can I, or someone else, not reject the black monks? Tell me, Vladimir, who do you feel yourself to be? That wounded Vedic Russian or the black monk? Me? Who am I? That means why you showed this to determine. But what does this have to do with me? Back there in the past, in that picture, your forebears were there. Who were they? What do you think, Vladimir? I don't know. I'd like to think they were the Vedic Russians. Of course, they were the Vedic Russians, because the black monks came to Rus from a different state. Tell me, Anastasia, have I understood all this correctly? Tell me. Vladimir, try not to get agitated. Take in the information calmly. Your ancestors truly were Vedic Russians. But the screeching black monk, too, was your ancestor. Everything arose from the whole, W-H-O-L-E. And this means all are brothers. Forgetting this, people fight amongst themselves, thereby destroying within their opponent their own selves. It was this way, perhaps, for a reason. With the beginning of the new millennium, a new era has arrived as a new awareness of existence on Earth, the era of the most beautiful transformation of the Earth. It's arrived. It's already here. Well, basically, I have a feeling inside me, too, that something new is going on in the world. Especially when I see the way people are setting up entire settlements of kin's domains in deserted places. Are they the ones who will lead this new era forward? Their awareness and feelings represent something new for the world. Well, but on the other hand, when you watch the news on television and everything there is just the same as it's always been, right off the bat, they talk about who among the leaders met with whom, how much oil costs, how many years now they've been harping on about an economic crisis, but they don't suggest anything of significance. On the television, Vladimir, you are seeing news of the past life. The universe is already alive through different dimensions. Commit everything from the past to memory. Leave nothing out. Take with you your ancestors' prayer-fed strength. How am I to understand that? What does prayer-fed strength mean? What does it look like? From generation to generation, your ancestors would look upon an Orthodox icon each day, pray to it, and dedicate their thoughts to it, and their hopes and their requests. It would hearken unto them and try to help, and with each day the icon itself would grow stronger. It will help you, and it has helped already. As well, esteem the Rosary and the Quran that were given to you by the Grand Mufti of the Muslims, and the Bible of your father, Theodoret. Remember with reverence the day when you appeared before the people in the great Christ the Savior Cathedral, and the day when, in the most beautiful Layalya Tulyupan Mosque, you sat before the people who had crowded into the hall. At the table and alongside you were an Orthodox priest and a rabbi. You spoke of kin's domains. Ecologists spoke in support of you. Do you recall that? Yes, I do recall. The Grand Mufti organized that event, and people of various faiths came to the mosque then, and they were all grateful to him. But I remember something different, too. I remember the slanderous articles in the press. I remember how there was an orchestrated attempt to ridicule me on television on Channel 1. Perhaps it is necessary, this slander directed towards you? Necessary for what? What are you saying, Anastasia? You enter into a palace and a temple. A hero? Yes. Only you were unable to bear up beneath the brass trumpets and the fanfare of speech. How can you be saved from yourself? By means of yourself? Come on, I have no self and no pridefulness, only fatigue. So that means that it was due to fatigue, Vladimir, that one day when you appeared in a hall packed with readers in the capital of Belarus, you began to eject the bishop from the church publicly. That was due to fatigue? Oh, I wasn't serious about that. They told me before my appearance that he and the crowd applauded you. The collective thought was energized and took off. And what's up now with that bishop? But we are speaking not about him right now, Vladimir, but rather about you. You wanted to understand how you feel about religions, to get a feel for this and figure it out. Yes. You must do this. You must do this, only yourself. But I will tell you of future events. Perhaps the information concerning them will help you. It will happen before long that more than 150 leaders of various countries will come together. One question they will address, with scientists taking part: how to reduce the amount of harmful gases that are emitted into the atmosphere by human deeds, gases that threaten the planet with disaster. But the 150 leaders of the earth will be unable to make a decision that will save us, and they will go their separate ways, and the harmful gas created by mankind will continue to kill the planet. What can you say about such a situation, Vladimir? Footnote: in 2009, a climate summit of heads of state was held in Copenhagen from December 7th through 18th regarding capping and reducing emissions of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Representatives of 192 countries participated in the summit. What can I possibly say here? Heads of state have come together numerous times to solve the question of how to improve the ecological situation, but to no end. Most people don't pay any attention to these meetings anymore. And why is that? Well, because not a single state has announced any workable proposals. And if there aren't any workable proposals on the agenda, then what's the use of meeting? It only makes people laugh. And what would you consider a workable proposition? The kind of proposal where the majority of the people on the earth will change their life's priorities. The desire will arise to perfect one's dwelling land, instead of working at a harmful manufacturing plant to get money to subsist on. No ruler is in a position to stop these harmful manufacturing plants because unemployment will arise, and there will be riots, and his power will end up being threatened. That means that heads of states are not in a position to stop a global disaster, but perhaps different authorities, spiritual authorities, are capable of doing this. The patriarchs of all the religions will come together and give their word before each other that they will call upon their congregations to perfect the earth's dwelling land. Yes, exactly. They'd be able to deal with this question more effectively and have an effect on the people and the authorities at the same time. And so that means that religions are important and needed. What do you think, Vladimir? Yeah, turns out they are important and needed. And it would be great if they could all, together, direct their efforts toward perfecting both the spiritual and material dwelling land. But we need specifics here too. Your plan, Anastasia, is unsurpassed in terms of specifics, and people's hearts and souls everywhere are embracing it. But there is one circumstance that calls into question how viable it is. What circumstance is that? There's no doubt that the way of life for a family on the Kin's domain that you've shown is greatly superior to today's way of life for people in cities and in rural areas. Even now, the number of families living this way, without any support whatsoever from the government, is growing steadily with each year. And there might come a time when the majority of the Earth's population will want to have their own Kin's domain and live on it. And at that point, there won't be enough hectares for every family that wants one. Even now, people are talking about how a portion of the population needs to be eradicated due to the fact that there's not enough living spaces or natural resources. According to these rumors, there should remain on Earth the so-called golden billion, plus 2 or 3 billion people who serve them. The Earth's population is now 6 billion, and people are already raising the question of restricting births, like, say, China, where 1,300,000,000 people live, in an area comprising of 9.6 million square kilometers. If people's way of life begins to change in accord with your plan, then people's life expectancy will increase. It's a completely obvious and undisputed fact that the life expectancy for a person living on a Kin's domain, assuming he has no harmful habits, here I'm talking about drinking, smoking, and things like that, and he has an excellent diet, clean air, and healthy water, will, on average, be twice as long. Okay, who's talking here? Okay, it's still Vladimir. A family living on a kin's domain will want to have children, and such families have a significantly greater desire to bear children than those living in modern cities. So it follows that before long, new families won't be able to get a hectare to build on it a kin's domain. I understand that there must be some way out of this. When God was thinking of all that's beautiful, he can't have set up this dead-end situation that would be he can't have set up this kind of dead-end situation that would incite people to battle for living space. Your grandfather said that it's absurd and futile to explore outer space using current methods, and that there's another method. He calls it psychoteleportation. But no matter how much you think about it, it doesn't appear possible to understand it in a detailed way. Basically, people don't believe it exists, and science doesn't say anything about it. I am also aware that psychoteleportation... I am also aware that the psychoteleportation method of exploring outer space and the planets of other galaxies does exist. Who is talking here? Is this... Yeah, this is Anastasia. There's no quotation marks. But no one in my family line is privy to the details or mechanisms of this method. But no one in my family line is privy to the details or mechanisms of this method. I hope that people who are now establishing kin's domains or their children or grandchildren will discover and grasp what helps it function. This too will definitely come to pass. But I understand your anxiety, Vladimir. If a person already today cannot at least see a part of this mechanism, he will remain anxious due to his uncertainty regarding his family line. It is essential for us to grasp at least a part of it. I have been thinking tirelessly about it and searching, but I am finding only more and more confirmations all the time of its existence. It is possible that it's essential for us to lay out the logical lines of reasoning and to ask people who are familiar with science, with biology, and programming to think together. We must discover it all together. Vladimir, we've arrived, announced Anastasia. This is the home. This is grandfather's space.